The Muslims, I feel, for the most part, are suffering from many tragedies, and one of them is a distance from Allah's book. On the one hand, you have this approach to the Quran where you just read a translation and you assume that that is all it has to offer, which is a tragedy. I don't think it's fair for us to think that we've read a translation of the Quran and assume that we actually understand what Allah Azza wa Jal has to tell us. What Allah has to tell us is far more profound, far deeper, and far more beautiful than any human attempt at trying to even explain it, much less translate it. That's not even possible. So on the one hand, you have this tragedy of so many Muslims underestimating the value and the power and the beauty of the Quran. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, you have people that are trying to understand the Book of Allah and trying to study it in more depth, but when they present it to people, when they teach it to people, or at least try, they teach it in such a difficult way, in such a technical way that people just, nothing, what is he talking about? He just quoted like 80 different scholars and talked about some grammatical stuff and some roots of this or that or the other, but I don't get it. I don't know what he's talking about. And then people come out of that kind of a lecture saying, man, that was deep. And then you say, what did he talk about? I don't know, but it was deep, man. That was deep. You know? So I find myself in a very perplexed situation. On the one hand, these are profoundly beautiful, deep ayat. And even whatever little I've been able to study is really, for me, sometimes too deep. I have to sit back, take a break. Wallahi, sometimes I decide to study a passage of the Quran seriously, and I'll spend a few weeks, maybe even a couple of months on a few set of ayat. I'm reading a tafsir or taking some notes or listening to a scholar or just writing some things down. I get to a point where it gets so overwhelming for me that I just have to stop and go and like play with my kids and play a video game or something, get it out of my head because it's overwhelming. It really is overwhelming.